Listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to QQEvolution's webinar. Today we're going to cover how to add a new commercial or personal lines client in QQEvolution. We'll also look at how to enter multiple contacts and addresses in the client screen, and how to set like different X dates or special notes in the client's account. Additionally, we'll also be covering the new pinning feature, which gives you the ability to pin any area of a client's record, including the ACORD forms. Before we actually begin, on the right-hand side of your monitor, you will see a webinar panel. Now within that panel you have a section where you can type in any questions that you may have during the course of this webinar. I will not be able to see your questions until the very end, but I will set some time aside to address them each and every one. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and just get started with our session. And as you can see, I am already on the dashboard, on the QQEvolution dashboard. Now from here, to access my client's accounts, I just simply click on Client on the left-hand side, and it brings me directly here to the search screen. Now I can either browse, or I should say we can search for an existing client. We can browse for our entire database from here. I can also choose to add a new client from this screen. So if you look on the QQEvolution ribbon here under Add New, it allows me to add a new client directly from here. But if I'm also in a particular account already and I just want to start without having to go back to the search screen and just add a new client from this area, I can certainly do that. Now from the search, from the Clients tab, I can simply go to the section indicated as Client and click on New Client. This gives me a fresh client screen. So depending on how you have your utility set up, your default set up, I have mine where it automatically will give me a new personal lines type screen. Now if you're an agency that writes mostly commercial lines, well you can have that automatically defaulted in your utility section to a commercial line screen. And of course, if it's any different, you can change that immediately here. The cursor will automatically go to the primary information section here under Client Info, and this is where you're going to type the insured's primary information, whether it's the last name, the first name. You can type in the date of birth, social security number, the driver's license number, and state that it's that they're licensed in. So if I want to just here, we can go ahead and add my information. Okay, so as you see now, I have my QQ ribbons that change slightly from the search screens that are now available. And I also have some additional tabs here that are available at the bottom, which we'll be covering very shortly. Now, the first name is the next step that I'm going to fill in. I can fill in a middle initial. I can put in my date of birth. If I don't have that information right now, you can simply bypass this information and I can always come back to this section. I can put in whatever information I need pertinent to this account. If there's a spouse information, I can also add that here. The next area that we'll look at is insured name. This information will always default to the primary, and it will also always indicate the last name first and then the first name. Your salutation, this is where it will pull automatically from the primary's first name. Now if it's any different, for example, my first name is Elizabeth, I like to be called Liz. I can change that information so when I'm setting up my letters, I know automatically when I'm creating those template letters that I want it to pull from the salutation to personalize my letters a little bit. So I can indicate that there. If this insured has a website, then you can certainly include that website address here. Your client numbers, if you're setting them up in utilities to automatically generate a client number, you'll see that section filled in right here. The next area that we're going to look at is miscellaneous, and this is where you're going to add some miscellaneous information in regards to this account. Now the first area that it'll come to, and it prompts you and it shows you exactly with a cursor what your next area is, and it'll indicate in blue what it needs you to fill out. So from the drop-down arrow, you're going to put in how this insured found your agency. If they're a new customer, was it through a radio ad, a walk-in, was it a website, or the yellow pages? You can indicate that. If there's, for example, if I choose radio ads, maybe there's a specific radio station that you want to indicate under source detail. So maybe it was Y100. So we can enter that information there. The next step is to indicate who the agent of record is for this account. The drop-down selection, if you have that information completed in your utilities section under Agent CSR Producer, you should be able to find that person here. Okay. The next area that we'll look at is since, and this is where you're going to add when this customer first became your client. Now maybe this is a returning customer, so the date will always default to today's date, but you can change that. So let's say if this was a returning client, you can always indicate when they originally were your client. So if you knew that they've been your client since 2010, you can just simply add that information in this section. The language of preference, this is where you're going to indicate the client's language of preference, which can be anywhere from English, Spanish, or French. Okay, by indicating that, if you can also select, if you have template letters created in a different language within QQEvolution in the quick word section, this would indicate which letter to pull from. Okay, so if you indicate Spanish or French and you have that letter typed in and saved in your templates, it'll automatically pull the French version or the Spanish version. If not, just leave it at English. Your contact information is where you're going to add the insured's or this client's contact information, their home number, work number, any cell number. You can also indicate if they have different types of numbers. Let's say if they have like a Skype number or special internet number that you can reach them, you can indicate that in this section also. My utilities are set up to automatically pre-fill my contact information with the 561 area code. If this is not correct, and this person has a 954 area code for their home number, you can indicate that here. You can certainly change that. You can do the same with work number, cell, their fax number. And when you come down to work number here again, well, maybe they have, maybe they don't have a second number for work and you don't really need to see that. Maybe they have a Skype number and you want to indicate that information here. Well, you can put that in there. Maybe there's also an international number, and see how I can just customize this specifically for this customer. The next area that we're going to look at in this section is email address, and this is where you're going to add the client's email address. You have two email addresses that you can include here, so if they have one for a work email address and maybe a home personal email address, you can also indicate that. So I would go ahead, you can just type in that number or that address. Okay, now if you needed to email this customer, you can simply, oh, my emails are not selected in utilities, so what I would need to do is go into utilities and set that information up in my utilities section under my defaults in order for me to actually email directly from QQEvolution. Now, another area that we can look at is on the upper right-hand side, which are the X dates. So if this customer has a specific X date that needs to be sent, maybe you want to mark it some insurance information for him. Maybe you're writing his auto policy, but you still don't have his homeowners, and you know it expires, let's say, in April of next year, and you want to start really contacting this customer a little bit before then. You can set what's called an X date and enter that information here. So let's say we want to start contacting him as of February, like mid-February. We can do that. We can enter, let's see, homeowners. And we know that come February, that reminder date will be on my X date section in my dashboard, so that I'll know to start contacting the customer to start maybe marketing our agency for their homeowners policy. So if I hover, if I put my mouse here, it'll show me without having to actually go in what my note is for this particular account, what my X date note is. Okay, so that's how you would put also your X dates in a client's account. Now, if you look above that under our ribbon, we have the different functions that you can do within the client's screen. Under print, you can of course print letters that are specific to this customer. You can print a label, the envelope. You can even print a screenshot of the client screen for yourself. You can add new clients from here, or you can delete this. Now, delete is permanent, so by deleting a client, if you have that permission level set for you, that would mean that you're deleting them completely from the database. It's not just putting them as an inactive client or anything. Change status. This customer that I've just entered, I'm entering them as an active client, but if I want to switch this information to a prospect, let's say we're just contacting them, they haven't really bound any coverage, we're just quoting, I can go ahead and select under change status to change that status to a prospect. Once I confirm that that's exactly what I want to do, if you notice here, it changes that information automatically for me as a prospect. Now, I can leave it as a prospect, or I can go back and actually set them as inactive, or I can change them to active once I bound coverage. And that's how you would change the status. Now, also, we have the option to receive a payment directly here from the client screen. So if the customer is coming in and making a payment, you can record that payment directly here. I can also create a finance schedule. If I'm doing any agency in-house financing, I can create a finance schedule directly here. I can also create a bill. So if there's a portion of that premium that the client still owes me and I want to create a bill so I can send them an invoice, I can go ahead and do it directly from the client screen. Our last area here that we're going to look at under the QQEvolution ribbon is the set note. And this allows you just to set a note for yourself regarding this account. Maybe it's a particular note you want everybody to pay attention to once they come into this account. So maybe the customer does not want any emails. Maybe they just want correspondence to be done by phone. So once I enter that information there, I can also add a date to just show exactly when I added this note. I can click on this red X here, and now this area or this note will follow me throughout any areas that I'm in QQEvolution. So if I'm in the memo section, I'll see that also indicated here. So it's a constant reminder. Okay, and as you can see, I can flip from screen to screen within the client's account, and this information is automatically saved, so I don't have to remember to come in here and click on save to save any changes that I make. It's automatically done for me. Let's see. Okay, once you're done with this note, you do have the option of clearing the note. So if this note no longer applies for this particular account, you can clear that information and click on the red X, and now it disappears. Now there is one note available per client account, but you do have up to 250 characters that you can type onto that note. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll bring your attention to the bottom of the screen here, and we'll look at each tab individually, and these are also different functions that you can do within QQEvolution. Now, the policy tab, this will show you any policies, whether they're active or inactive, any policies that you have with this particular account. The linked accounts, this will allow you to link two accounts together without actually merging any data. So if you have an account, let's say for example you have this customer that has their personal lines account with you right now, and they also have a commercial lines account, and you want to link those two together, but you don't really want to merge any data. You still want to have two separate accounts, one for their commercial and one for their personal. Well, you can do that. If you come here if you look on the lower right hand side, you have the option to click on linked accounts. This box will appear, and you'll have the ability to browse, either type in a specific name for the other account, or just simply click on browse, and you can browse all of your database directly from here. You can choose which account from here to link. On the lower left, you'll see an option to add linked accounts, and now you have the section up top here where it shows you that you've just linked these two accounts. Once you're done, now I can link as many accounts as I want to. So if I have, let's say, an entire family with different policies and different accounts with my agency, I want to link them together because it's a big account. I want to know that. I can do that. I can continue adding to my linked accounts as much as I want. Okay, once I'm done, all I have to do is just click on Save, and now I have them here in my Linked Accounts tab. So if I needed to access one of these accounts, all I have to do is just either double-click, and it takes me right to that account, or I can simply select the Go To account, and it takes me right back where I started. So that's how basically you would add a linked account. Now, if I needed to unlink the accounts because they no longer apply, maybe I don't have this person anymore in my agency as a customer, I can go back to linked accounts and simply highlight which account I needed to remove. Oh, I clicked on remove all accounts, sorry. But I would click on to remove one link at a time, just click on remove link, and then just remember to save your changes. And they've all gone. Now our next tab is other contacts, and this section you're able to add as many contacts that the insured has for you. There you can add contacts, for example, if they have relatives that don't have an account with your agency, or maybe friends that they can refer to your agency, you can add that information to this section. You can also pull a report at any point in time from our report section on your other accounts, and you can also have X dates set up for these accounts. So if you needed to add another contact, you can simply click on Add. This will prompt you to enter the first name. Maybe we'll add Joe Smith. Okay. We have, let's see, an address. We can just put that address in here. You can add their mailing address or garage property address. If they have a suite number, you can do that. The city, mine's already set in utilities to default to Deerfield Beach, So that's the way I have it set up. If it's any different, of course, you can change that. You can enter their driver's license number if you have it, maybe their date of birth. If they're a relative, you can indicate that here. If they're not, you can also indicate that information. So you can choose, you can change that information to non-relative, and there's a drop-down selection. Maybe they're giving you a friend's name or a coworker's name. Maybe it's their roommate. If you don't see the selection there and you want to add some additional options in this drop-down selection, just click on the box right next to it, click on Add, and you can make any changes or any additions to this section yourself. Okay. Otherwise, all you would need to do, just indicate maybe it's a friend, their occupation, maybe they're an analyst there. We'll choose that. And you just pretty much fill in the information here. You can add their email address. And this is a section where you would add their X date. So if I wanted to start marketing their account maybe in December, I can do that. I can set an X date. Once I'm done entering this information, lastly, I can also add comments to this pertaining to this particular contact. And let's say their auto policy maybe renews in January. So maybe I do want to contact and set that X date to contact them in December to make sure that I introduce myself and, you know, I can maybe get a quote out to them before their renewal time. So I can do that. Once I'm done entering this information, I can simply click on Update. And now I've saved my my first contact. And if I have additional contacts that I want to enter for this particular account, I can certainly do that. I can just simply click on Add, and it gives me a fresh screen. And I continuously add. It's unlimited, the number of contacts that you can enter for one client. So you can add as many as you want. Addresses. Nope. Let's cancel this. And we'll go to addresses. And this is where you're going to add the mailing address for the insured. Now within this tab, you can also add a garage property address if it's needed. So if you have an insured that has a P.O. box as a mailing address, or maybe you're writing for a seasonal resident, you can add a mailing address and then the actual garage property address separately also. Now please keep in mind that when you do that, you do have those two options. However, if you notice on my screen, my garage property section here is not available. That's simply because there's no policy currently that I've created to attach that garage property address to. So once I add the policy, I can add the garage property address. So what we can do now is we'll just add, let's add a P.O. box to this address. I can indicate it's a mailing address and click on Update to save my changes. Okay, so there on the left-hand side will show you exactly my mailing address. It'll show you the mailing address, then also the type is indicated as mailing. Now if I wanted to, let's say, add a policy, just to show you for how to add the garage property address, I can do that. Now I can go back, and now I have that option available. So if I needed to add an additional address, I can simply click on Add, and I get a fresh screen, and I would enter that, that information. Okay, once I do that, I can indicate myself that it's the garage property address, click on Update, and assign it to that policy, and there I have it. Okay, so now I have my mailing address, and the type does indicate which one is mailing and which one is garage. And that's basically how you would add your address information. Now the last tab that we're going to look at, that is the Employers tab. Now since this is a personal lines account, it's going to have the tab that indicates the employer's information. So I can put as many employers' information here that I want. I can enter the company that my new client works for, any specific contact name like their boss's name or manager's name, the address, and just fill in this information however. Now if the client has additional workplaces or employers, I can also add as many as I'd like here. If they have a spouse that has also an employer, then you can add that information for the spouse. Again, on the left-hand side, you can also select comments and enter the comment information. All right. Now, if we look back and we switch this to a commercial account, commercial lines account, you can see that the screen changes slightly. Now here it prompts you to add, instead of the insured's name, which is the person's name, it's going to prompt you to enter the company name. If you have that information there, you would just automatically type it. You can enter the primary contact information below, and you can also enter here the federal ID number. Again, if you don't have it, this is not a required field, so you can bypass it and come back to it later if it's necessary. Also, here on the right-hand side, you'll see the salutation, same as the personal lines. You can enter, exactly how this person, the primary contact wants to be addressed. You can have a client number here. You can indicate the business type. If there's a DBA, you would enter it there, and also if there's a mailing address, or I'm sorry, a website address, you can indicate it there. The contact information on the right-hand side is basically the same, and the only thing at the bottom of the tabs that are really different is the last tab. With the personal lines account, you saw that the tab indicated employers. Well, with the commercial lines account, that changes in that you would be entering the employee information. So the employees that work for this particular company, you can enter that information here. So if ever you needed to market to that particular employee any insurance, you can do that. You can pull a report for that also. Now, other contacts, one thing I wanted to mention, when you enter information, let's go back to that section there under other contacts. If this person at a certain point in time does become one of your clients, let's say you do market their auto and they sign up with you and they bind coverage, you can automatically create a new client screen for this particular contact directly from here, create client. All you would have to do is just click on that, and it automatically opens up a new client screen with that person's information. All right, so it kind of saves you some time on entry, on typing. Now, the last area that we're going to look at today is that new feature I was talking to you about, the pinning feature. And what that does is it allows you to pin any area within a client's record, including if you're in like the Accord forms, so that you can, if you get interrupted, you can go to a new screen, work on a different account, and then always come back and finish up what you did. So the way I like to explain it is that we have this new pinning feature that is located in what's called the Quick Navigation tool. Now that can be accessed in two ways. You can either select, or from your keyboard, press down on the Control F4 button. This will automatically prompt you to enter a note for this account that would maybe help you, remind you to do or to finish a certain function. Or if you didn't want to do that, you can go to Quick Nav here, and this will pull up your quick navigation screen. Now if you look on top, there's two functions to this. We have at the bottom your quick search area, and this allows you to search and access a client's record while you're already on a client's record. So if I needed to search, let's say I'm in the middle of adding a new client, which was Elizabeth Rodriguez, and I get interrupted, maybe by a phone call, maybe a customer walked in. I can now search for that account and pause my the screen that I'm currently on. So if I needed to pause that screen, I can simply pin that item and say, you know, complete new account info. Okay, so now I have that little note there that'll tell me I have to go back to this account here and complete the new account information. All right, so now I can go to my quick search area, which is at the bottom, and I can either search by name, and it tells you right here in the search section. I can either search by the client's name, the last name, the phone number, or policy number. So if I wanted to, let's say, search for Smith, I can click on that. I can type it in there, click, and now I have Smith that I'm working on. So I can either double click on that name or click on open from the bottom of the screen, and now I can work on Daniel Smith's account. Maybe there's an issue that I need to look at and address with the auto policy. Maybe they need something specific, so I can handle it right away. When I'm ready to go back to my other screen or to my other account, I can simply go back to my quick nav. And now I see that I have Elizabeth Rodriguez that I have to go back to complete new account information. So again, I can either double click on this, or I can open item. Now if I needed to see details regarding this particular pinned item, I can also click on show details, and this tells me the insured name, the policy number, it tells me the type, where I was at, which screen, whether I'm in the client screen or maybe I was in memos. This will tell me exactly where I was, and my note. It'll just repeat my note information. Once I'm done, I can click on OK, and now I know I have to finish the client screen. So that's basically how you access the pinned area from a client's account. Now if I go into forms, now you can do the same thing in forms. The only difference is you won't have, in order to actually pin an ACORD form, you will have to be in that ACORD form. So let's say if I wanted to print an auto quote, or let's just choose something else. Let's say we're in the auto endorsement, and we'll just this is webinar company. We'll just do something so it could save that information. Okay, so now we're in this ACORD form. You get interrupted and you want to be able to go back to, you want to be able to address your new customer that maybe came in and needs your immediate attention, but you want to be able to come back to this section also. Well, instead of having the push pin on the upper right hand side, as you can see, there's that option is not available. What you would need to do is press down on the Control F4, and this again would allow you to pin the information or to put in a note that it just tells you what you need to do. Click on OK. Now I can go to my quick nav section, type in the information here for my next client that I need to look for. Maybe I'm taking care of Ruth. I have Ruth that needs my immediate attention. I can take care of her, and then if I go back to my quick nav, I can see now that I have an auto endorsement form that I need to complete. So if I open this item, it takes me right back to the first page of that ACORD form automatically. So I can go ahead and finish my ACORD form without actually having to start all over. Okay. Another, let's take a look at Quick Nav a little bit further. So as you can see, I have on the right-hand side or on the left-hand side, you have different push pins. Now the pinned items will always be indicated in blue, and the push pin will be upright. So if I needed to unpin an item, I can simply check that, And as you can see now, that item has been unpinned. So it's no longer blue, it's in gray, and the push pin is sideways. So if I need to repin this item, I can simply click on that again and enter my note, or I can simply cancel out of that. All right. Again, your quick search is at the bottom, so you can do a quick search of all your clients by name, policy number, phone number. If you look here on the left-hand side, you have two options. You can add notes when pinning an item. So we have it defaulted to always be checked, because a lot of times when you are pinning an item, you want to enter a note. But if that's not exactly what you like to do, then you can uncheck that box and it will not prompt you to add a note when you're pinning an item. It'll just simply pin that item in blue. Automatically unpin an item after opening is another option that you have, and what that allows you to do is after you open an account, it'll automatically unpin it for you, so you don't have to come back to this section and manually do it yourself. So if you want that to happen, then you can go ahead and just check that box right there. Otherwise, you can leave it unchecked. And with that bit of information, that pretty much concludes our webinar for today. I hope it's been helpful for you. I will be opening up our webinar panel to questions. Before I do, I just want to bring your attention to our website here. If you go to our news and events section, this will show you all the webinars that we have scheduled for you throughout the year through the end of the year. Just keep checking back, and you may be able to sign up for different webinars that we create for you. Okay, so with that said, I am going to open it up now to questions. So if you have any questions regarding the contents of our webinar today, please feel free to type them in, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. Thank you.